For today, I'm going to be ranking all of the God of War games from 2005, the original, up to the new game, God of War Ragnarok, including God of War Ragnarok's DLC, Valhalla. I'll be including that in part of Ragnarok when I rank Ragnarok. So, as of recently, I've played through all of the Greek Saga God of War games to get an up-to-date view and an up-to-date opinion on those games. If you want to go and see, I have every single Greek Saga God of War game on the channel, except from Betrayal, but we'll talk about Betrayal when we get to Betrayal, because Betrayal is an interesting type of game. So let's start with the original God of War game. So God of War 1, 2005, the original God of War game. An amazing game. Great game. Really, it had an amazing... What can I say? It's the first God of War game. Story wasn't the longest God of War game. You're talking like maybe like 6 to 8 hours, depends how good you are. The difficulty, God of War 1 is actually a very difficult game. And I would say it's the hardest out of the Greek Saga games. When it becomes to the hardest in the trilogy, I would say personally it's the hardest to learn and master it, because some of the because your combos go really fast. Like if you don't hit an enemy for a split second and you're going like in a, I don't know, a 50 hits multiplier or some silly like that, some high like that. If you miss for a split second, you instantly go away from it, which is quite brutal. Also, it's very hard to master everything in God of War 1. Most God of War games, it's almost possible to master everything in the skill. But God of War 1, I would say, is the hardest. Like, you master the Blades of Chaos, you can master maybe Poseidon's Rage, maybe the Armies of Hades, maybe the Zeus's ability. But then trying to master the sword on top of that is extremely difficult to do. And about that, God of War 1's powers, pretty good. I mean, Poseidon's Rage, I would say, is the most broken power in the entire franchise. It is legit. You know what power, especially when you level up, that power is so broken. No wonder they made that the only power you get at the start of God of War 2. That's how freaking overpowered it is. And as for the other three powers, you have the freeze one. It's okay. Certain scenarios it can be good. Zeus's lightning attack. It's good, but I prefer it when there's a bow when you don't use powers. I prefer a bow over the Zeus's lightning attack, so that's okay. And the Army of Hades is actually really good, but the problem with the Army of Hades is you get a little bit too close to the end of the game, so you might not be able to max it out. And then you've got the purple sword, the Sword of Athens, I think. Is that the name of the sword? I'm not entirely sure what the name of the sword is. That I could be wrong there. It's good, but you get it too late in the game. It's quite slow. So by the time you get that sword, your Blades of Chaos are already level 3. Maybe even level 5 if you're that good at the game. Level 4, level 3, somewhere around about there. Your Blades of Chaos are going to be, and the sword's really slow, even though it does more damage. It's kind of meh. So, yeah. The powers are pretty good in God of War 1, but there could be more. There's not a lot of weapon variety. That's the word I'm looking for. Weapon variety, so it is problem. Some other problems with God of War 1 is sometimes the grabs and that can be a bit glitchy, like when you have to grab an enemy, because obviously the button will pop up, or it'll make that cool ass noise, which I'm not even going to try and make because I can't make it. It's like, or something like that. I can't even make it. But you can grab the enemy, and if something's attacking you and you try and grab, you can miss the grab, so you can miss multiple times, which is a little bit annoying. It's the first game. And the final problem is God of War 1 has a lot of parkour sections, which those parkour sections where you have to stand on like a, what's the word I'm looking for? This is not scripted, just so you know, like a plank or something like that. If you played the game before, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And you can constantly get fall off them and that, and it can be a little bit annoying. That can be a bit annoying at times, especially later on when you have to do the trap section. There's one bit in the end of the game, the last hour before you complete the game. There's a bit when you're at Hades, where you have to climb up this like, so when you go to hell, obviously when Ares kills you. I'm not going to really spoil the story, but you have to climb up, and there's like this freaking massive tower you have to go up, and it's got hundreds and hundreds of traps moving around. You probably, if you played the game before, you know exactly what I'm talking about. That section fucking sucks. That section's kind of RNG, to be honest. The first time I did it, I was terrible at it, but when I did it play through this year, it actually wasn't too bad, truth be told. But that section can be annoying. But the good things about God of War 1, let's talk about the boss fight. So the boss fights, first boss fight, pretty good, iconic. Iconic, that's an iconic boss fight. Then you got the bull later on, you fight, pretty good. Pretty good boss. Then you got the final boss, Ares. Ares is an alright boss fight. I mean, his first phase is quite good, but his second phase can suck, especially at higher difficulties. And God of War 1, as I said earlier, does have some crazy difficulty jumps. Like, there's this section in the Temple of Pandora right before you get the Pandora's chest. This section where there's like fire traps, there's like these things that are moving your character around, and the fire kills you instantly, which is fucking annoying. Then you get tons of harpies constantly attacking you. And the problem is, by the time in the previous encounter, when you complete the previous encounter, they get like when you complete most encounters in God of War 1, you most likely, or any God of War game of the Geek Saga game, you usually get a power drop of some sort. You don't get that, so you got to fight that section of that power, and that section can be ridiculously fucking hard. But overall, I would say God of War 1. God of War 1 is an amazing game. You need to play the original trilogy. I recommend to everyone, always play the original 3 games. And I'll even talk about some of the other games here as well, so we're ranking them all. So, yes, absolutely age. Is it age the best? No. Also, I may as well talk about hardware as well. We're talking about this. So you can play this game, obviously the original PlayStation 2 method. You can play this game on a PlayStation 3, which has a higher frame rate, 60 FPS instead of 30, higher resolution. Then you can play the game through screen streaming. These are the official ways to play the game, of course. You can play the other game, obviously you emulate the game however you want to emulate a game. The games run amazing on RC, PCS3, PlayStation 3 emulator runs absolutely amazing on that if you want to play at higher resolution. And if you've not got a powerful PC, PCS2, you can run it pretty well as well. So, great game, easy to play. I just, maybe we would like to have true back and back one day with PlayStation 5. That would be a great feature, but the game is practically playable fully, start to finish, no problem on an emulator as well. Never mind just the vanilla one method. Next is God of War 2. So God of War 2, I improved the story, I'd say, quite a bit of God of War 1. Oh, so some of the gods in the pictures, not the pictures, when you're getting the power, look kind of weird in God of War 1 because they changed the face model, the way the gods look in God of War 2, and they obviously kept with the way they look in God of War 3 and the other God of War games. But it was the first game, so I can understand that. I think it's a different director as well. They had a different direction plan when they were making God of War 1. I'm not entirely sure if they actually had plans for Kratos to go on a killing rampage in the future games. And these games do have stories. A lot of people say the original Geek Saga God of War games don't have serious stories. They do. If you understand the lore and you understand that you take all the lore, it has a lot of information in that era. So it is interesting. So God of War 2 practically fixed a lot of issues with God of War 1, such as the grabbing. There was more, you get more weapons. The powers were still pretty powerful, but they weren't as overpowered. So obviously, I didn't really level up my weapon. I'm going to be truth be told, see my playthrough, I didn't really level up the other weapons. I kind of just stayed to the blades again, if I'm going to be completely honest with you. But I get the appeal. You get the big spear, you get the hammer, and I think you also get the big sword at the end. The Olympus blade at the end, which sadly you're forced to use in the boss fight. Final is boss fight, which can kind of suck for some people. So, yeah, pretty good game. Absolutely amazing. The story is absolutely amazing. I get some people aren't the biggest fan of God of War 2's plot line because they think it's just kind of because of the cliffhanger ending. But Halo 2 had a cliffhanging ending, and I think that's the best Halo game as well. So, cliffhanger endings sometimes good. And plus, the Halo fan base had to wait 3 years. God of War fan base had to wait 3 years. So, in between the endings. So, yeah. So, powers, you had the stop power, which was easily the best. You, again, reduces power turns. You had the bow, which was really cool. The bow is a really cool weapon. Too bad it still used magic. Not as good as the God of War 3 bow. And what was the other thing? I think it was like, what's his name? What's his name? What's his fucking his father's name again? Jeez, I don't script the stuff at all, as you know. I don't script tier videos because I think it's more interesting. How the fuck have I got his name? How the frick have I forgot his name? Oh, man, you get a power for him. You find that he's a boss fight in God of War 3 as well. The big Titan guy. How have I forgot his name? Not Atlas. Not Atlas. The other one. I forgot his name. I've actually forgot his name. There's only there's 3 Titans in God of War 3. God of War 2, you got, fuck it. I've completely forgot their names. That's crazy. A lot of them play for these games in 2023. And I've already forgot their freaking names. I remember them. It's because I'm doing a video and I forgot. So, regardless, forget that. So let's talk about the God of War 2 is crazy. So God of War 2 ramps up the boss fights a lot more. You experience a lot more boss fights. Obviously, it's kind of slow in the start. You know, they fight a kind of a boring boss that just blows you away. I don't really call that a boss. Then you fight Perseus. Then you fight that other guy, which they're okay. or puzzles as well. I forgot to talk about puzzles in God of War 1. So God of War 1 puzzles, I think, are not too bad. There's one wee annoying one where you have to collect the word towards the end of the game, but I'd say it's one of the easier puzzles. God of War 1 actually does a very good job with the puzzles. They don't make them over complicated like some of the future God of War games, and they're not that annoying. God of War 2, in particular, there's two puzzles I remember in particular. So you have this fire puzzle at the when you're getting lighting up this fire big fire bird thing. There's a bit where you've got to push these crates. These enemies are constantly spawning in, and this fire keeps on hitting you. It's kind of annoying. It's kind of annoying. So also, I forgot to mention the music as well. God of War 2. God of War 2's main menu music is absolutely fucking god tier. God tier music. God of War 1 has great. God of War 3 has great, but God of War 2 I think easily has the best menu music we've ever seen in a God of War game. It is absolutely crazy. I love it. It's easily the best music in the franchise. I would say the main menu music it's great. It's crazy. It's like Kratos. Do da 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 da. Or is that more than God Free? But it's more it's chaotic. It's amazing. Um. So let's think. I'm just going to talk about the few flaws God of War 2 has. So, but God of War 2 to me has two massive flaws. So God of War 2 kind of keeps the harder combat of God of War 1, which I like because I think future games the combat gets a little bit too easy. Especially some of the newer games, the combat can get really easy in certain sections. But I think God of War 2 is pretty balanced. Also, God of War 2 is the only two of the original God of War games, obviously God of War 2 and 3, where you get this thing halfway through the game in God of War 2, which is like the ultimate parry weapon, and it's absolutely amazing. It feels so rewarding to parry in the game. It is absolutely crazy. No other God of War game, I think, does parrying as good as God of War 2 and 3, because just feels when you get a perfect parry. Oh, that like knockback thing you get is amazing. So anyway, so here's the problems of God of War 2. So there's one enemy type that was a little bit annoying in God of War 1, but they buffed him in God of War 2. It's this guy, the Blades, that goes underground. I think they made him a lot more stronger in God of War 2, a lot more fucking annoying in God of War 2, personally. And Medusa is so broken in God of War 2. She legit freezes you in 1 second. No joke. Of course, you get a perfect parry later in the game. You get a massive reward. But the fact is, the base Medusa just freezes you. It's really annoying because it results in a lot of deaths. And yeah, talking about that other puzzle, the ice puzzle room can be a bit annoying in God of War 2. It's not too bad once you know what you're doing. But overall, I would say God of War 2 is an improvement over the first game. I actually really like the story of God of War 2. The Trabone and the betrayal and all that stuff. I love it. I know not everybody's the biggest fan of God of War 2, but I gotta give God of War 2 a fucking masterpiece. It is a freaking iconic classic. And like the original God of War, it's pretty much the exact same as the original God of War, the way you can play it on console platforms. Obviously, you can game stream it on their consoles, which, to be honest, I do not recommend to game stream it, just because don't game stream any. I mean, games do whatever the fuck you want, but even if you've got 1-2 gigs of internet speed, download speed, upload speed, even streaming a game, it can be inconsistent. The frame rate can be inconsistent. So yeah, it's okay that way, but I wouldn't recommend to stream it that way. I wouldn't recommend to play the game next week. So the next is the first PSP game, which is God of War Chains of Olympus. So God of War Chains of Olympus, apart from God of War Betrayal, is the shortest God of War game. It's like you're getting about between 3.5 to 5 hours in the game. The game is very easy. So obviously you can play this game on a PSP and a PlayStation 3. I suggest you probably play this game on a PSP, because if you play it on a PlayStation 3, you're probably going to find the game a bit too easy, I think, personally. Just because the higher frame rate, the powers are kind of meh. You get this like stomp power, which is okay at the start of the game, and then you get some of the later powers, they're kind of okay. The weapons are kind of lackluster as well. The dodging's kind of funny. The dodging's really weird in the PSP God of War games. Like the dodging mechanic, it feels weird the way it does. It's not weird as in like you're dodging, the character dodging. It's weird as in the way he moves when he dodges. Like he barely dodges at all. It looks really strange. If you played the games before, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Um, Stories. I mean, parts of the story is interesting. So the sun goes down in the story. Hades loses power and you go against some mad Hades' love in that game, and you find out more about his daughter in that game, which I think is interesting because the main trilogy you don't really learn about Kratos' daughter. You learn more about him and how he abandons his daughter in that at the end, which is quite a quite a dramatic scene. Which I didn't really react to because I played the game before. I struggle to react to stuff I've played the game before, which is the way I am. So overall, it's pretty good. I wouldn't say it's amazing. I would say it's okay. I would say it's an okay game. Do you absolutely have to play it? No, but if you want to learn more about the lore and Kratos' background, especially in the Geek Saga, I do recommend the game, but it's not essential. So next is God of War Betrayal. So I didn't do a playthrough of God of War Betrayal. Main reason is because this is the hardest God of War game to play. If I don't even know if this game is listed still on storefronts if you had one of the original phones. So this game came in 2007, and it's not an iPhone or modern Android. Obviously, you'd probably where you could play it through emulation. I would imagine to play it on modern phones, but it's like made for the Java phones and that stuff, ancient stuff. So the game's pretty slow. The game's the shortest in the franchise, only about 2 hours long, 1 to 2 hours long. It's not that hard. It can be hard to say on sections. It's hard to judge. I just don't know a lot about this game. I'm going to be honest. I don't know a lot about this game. It's a phone game. You can, yeah. I can't say a lot about the game. I'm going to be honest. This is probably a controversial place, but I'm going to put the dog shit. I mean, if you're a fan of this game and you tell me it's an amazing game, let me know in the comments. Let me know that I should do a playthrough on this game. Let me know because I'll find some way to do a playthrough on this game if I can. Even if I just do one stream, a 1 hour stream or something of this game, I might do it, But I can't really comment on God of War Betrayal. I'll find some way to play if you guys want to see a playthrough of it because I want to learn more about that game. But I just it's a phone game, and you're talking the rest of the games are like main console games. Like I can't really put that any higher. To be honest, maybe it's not a dog shit game. Maybe it's an okay game, but yeah. I'm sure some people will say, "Oh, this is the best game ever," but oh well. I don't know what to say. It's a really hard game to rank. It's really hard to rank a game on a phone that's like 1 2 hours long compared to games that are made for actual proper consoles or handheld consoles. So next is God of War Ghost of Sparta. So God of War's Code of Sparta came in 2010. Actually, this game came out before that, to be honest. Oh well. I should have put this game before that game in the list. But, well, mistakes were made. Because this came in 2007, pretty sure. Or 2009. Not entirely sure. And this came in 2008. Obviously, it's 2007, 2005. No, 2007, 2005. I got that wrong. For some reason, I thought this was God of War 2 for some reason. That'd be funny if I had to put it wrong. So next is God of War Ghost of Sparta. So God of War Ghost of Sparta came out 2010, the exact same year as God of War 3. It came out like later towards the end of the year instead of like mid year when it towards the start, which the original God of War 3 came. So God of War Ghost of Sparta is it's a decent game. It's about you learn about Kratos' brother, you learn about his childhood, which I think is very interesting. Power wise, once again, it's kind of like the other PSP game. It's kind of lackluster. You got a really good one actually, but it drains your powers, and so it's like this sweeping attack. So it's really cool, but you only use it in that one section where you get it infinitely, and you get like a 500 fucking combo on it, man. That's what I fucking got, and that was amazing. That 500 multiplier, but apart from that, you don't get it infinite. So it's a little bit longer. It's about 8 hours long. I think the biggest problem with this God of War game is actually possibly the length. I think this game's a bit too long. I think this game is a bit too long. I think this game they could have taken an hour, 2 hours off because the final hour section before you fight Thanos, fucking Marvel, Thanaton, it just feels like it drags on, like you're walking into this place and you're dealing with traps and stuff like that. It just feels like it goes on and on and on. It's a wee bit annoying. But I would say it's a better game. It's definitely a better game than Also, I got to mention this game has probably the worst compatibility when it comes to playing on modern hardware, but through emulation. So it's the hardest game to play. Not by hardest game to play, not by difficult. I mean by how to find it. Once again, this game is really easy as well. I mean, the Spartan Shield's quite cool, but I used it for the playthrough, some of it, but I felt like the blades were 10 times better, if I had to be honest. Also, it's kind of weird as well in this God of War game is your blades only go up to level 4 instead of level 5. It's a really, really strange mechanic. I don't know why they made it like that because every other game the blades go up to level 5, but I assume it's just the way they made the game. So I don't really have a lot to say. I mean, I get it. People like these games. I have respect for these two games, and I'm glad they released them because the PSP was a great handheld console. Even though I never played these games on the PSP, I played them types. I played like the Battlefront games and that on the PSP. I didn't really play the God of War games on the PSP. I didn't even know it was necessary to be honest. But I probably could have known these games. If I did a little bit of research, I probably could have known these games, especially when they came out. This game, however, I would have known. Next is God of War fucking 3. So God of War 3 is almost a perfect game. So let's talk about the couple of flaws God of War 3 has. So the couple of flaws I think it has is the start of the game, you fight a bunch of gods. I forgot to mention that in God of War 2, the fucking boss fights. The last hour is absolutely amazing. So you fight your Spartan brother, then you fight the Karakin boss, which is okay. Then you fight the Sisters of Bait, which is one of the best boss fights in the entire franchise. Freaking amazing fight. Then you fight this like big fucking tit thing, whatever the fuck it is. It's not really a boss fight. It's more of a puzzle type of boss fight. It's kind of interesting. Then you fight Susie. Susie's okay. I think Susie's boss fight in God of War 3 is better than God of War 2. So God of War 3, as I was saying, first hour is great. You fight you don't really fight Asus. You fight what's his name? Poseidon. You kill Poseidon. And then later on you fight some of the later gods like fucking Hades, pretty much almost like half an hour. You have to, maybe not half an hour, maybe an hour after you fight him. Then you fight him, the big Titan core. Kronos! That's his fucking name. Kronos. Kronos. That's what I meant to mention in God of War 2. You get powers from Kronos. You use one of his powers. That's what I forgot to mention in God of War fucking 2. I frick see it came to my mind. But as I was saying, God of War 3. So yeah, you do all that. Then it goes really slow. Then the Pandora section is it's kind of bad. The escorting Pandora and she's walking into traps constantly over and over and over again. It's annoying, but the rest of the game makes up. So the powers are amazing. So the powers in God of War 3 are tied to the weapon you are using, which is a really, really cool system. So you've got the hammer weapon, you've obviously got the blades, you've got the Hades weapon, and it's a lightning weapon. The other one, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, it's a lightning weapon, which is probably the one I used to least. Probably the weapon I used the least amount. It feels like you have to use the weapons a lot more in God of War 3, which is really good. Like against those giant things, those silver statues, you need to use the hammer. Not the hammer, the fist. It's the fist. I don't know why I'm calling it the hammer. It's the fist. It's his brothers. His other brothers' fist. Yeah, because Kratos has like fucking 10 brothers. It's confusing, but you know what I'm talking about when you beat him. You use this freaking powerful fists. They're absolutely amazing. You use them against the more metal guys. Also, I forgot to mention as well. There's one section in the game where you have the stupid freaking piano puzzle. That doesn't seem like that should fit in a God of War game. That feels weird why that was put there. But apart from really those three issues, the game is absolutely amazing. I mean, I would say, I personally prefer God of War 2 over 3. Shocker. Because of the story, I think God of War 2 has a bit of a better story than 3. However, I'm going to put 2 ahead of 3. Even though I prefer God of War 2, it's because I think God of War 3 is better overall than 2 because I can acknowledge this because the powers, you take more advantage of using different types of weapons, you get a bow that doesn't use power. The combat feels a lot smoother. Like it feels like the blocking's more consistent. Some of these God of War games, the blocking feels awful, or the parrying feels really bad. It feels amazing in God of War 3. God of War 3 is one of the, it has a remastered version, so if you have a modern PlayStation, you can play this game natively. If you have the God of War 3 remaster game, so you can play this game native, which is amazing. I wish God of War 1 2 would have got some kind of remaster. Maybe they will eventually. Though I fear they might ruin them a little bit. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens in time. So, next is God of War Ascension. So, if you watch my God of War Ascension, I didn't really like God of War Ascension. I think it's the worst Greek saga God of War game. It's got a lot of rough edges. It's got a lot of bad things about it. It's got a lot of good. Let's talk about the few goods. So So the goods is geez, the goods are hard. It's actually hard to think about the good stuff about God of War. So the starter section's kind of interesting, and the final boss, I really like God of War Ascension's final boss. I think the final chapter for God of War Ascension is absolutely amazing. I think the final boss fight is one of the strongest parts of God of War Ascension. But the other stuff, well, let's talk about the bad. So the puzzles are quite annoying. I think this game had a lot of annoying puzzles. God of War 3, I forgot to mention the garden puzzle. Fuck the garden puzzle, but it's actually not too bad once you know what you're doing. God of War Ascension, you have that. You had a couple annoying puzzles. Yeah, like the filling up this lava thing and that, filling up this container thing, it was a little bit slow. It made the game slow. The frame rate as well, it's like it's the first party PlayStation 3 game, but it feels to drop a lot below 30 FPS. It's also the only God of War game that actually runs at 30 FPS, and there's no way to play it at a higher frame rate unless you play it on an emulator. And to play God of War Ascension on the emulator, you need quite high MPZ. You're probably looking like a 7000 Ryzen CPU or maybe an Intel 12 or 13th gen, really, and you're talking maybe like a 4000 series card if you want to play the game at like a 48 or a 49 if you want to play the game at 4K resolution. And then you have to change a bunch of settings and that to make the game even play properly on a computer, and it's still fucking busted. God of War 3 is a bit better to play on the emulator than God of War Ascension, so I played on the PlayStation 3, which was kind of rough. But regardless, but that's the problem. Not everybody's going to emulate a game. Obviously, you can't play this game on modern consoles either. So it's got a problem with that as well. The rage meter change is the absolutely worst change fucking ever. I said this in my playthrough countless times, and I say this even if you're a massive fan of God of War Ascension, you cannot argue with this. The rage meter is so bad in God of War Ascension. They went back to the classic rage bar in God of War 2018. Like God of War 1, 2, 3 had the classic rage bar system. They went back to the God of War's Ascension rage bar was so bad they went back. So how the rage bar system worked in God of War Ascension was you didn't actually have a rage ability, but you still had the rage bar at the side. But how it would work is if you would get a bunch of hits, and if you got enough hits, you would be able to use a power like the Army of Hades, for example, or the fire going everywhere, or Zeus's lightning going everywhere, stuff like that. It was kind of cool, but here's the problem: if you got hit once by an enemy, sometimes you were lucky and it wouldn't reset, but there's a good chance if you got hit by a single enemy that it would completely reset, so you couldn't use. So then you had to get that combo up again and not get hit multiple times. You got punished for getting hit. You may as well play this game on the hardest difficulty. That's how fucking punishing it is for getting hit. It's like, oh, you're bad to get hit. I know it's kind of bad to get hit in the old God of War games because you obviously your blood, those blood shit, you get that red stuff, you get the red orbs when it goes high enough, but you could pass by and there are ways to always get red orbs in the future, but you would kind of get screwed over by the rage bar. Also, the weapons as well, there was a lack of weapons, so you had the Blades of Chaos, and you had 4 elements for the Blades of Chaos, which were okay, but the problem was it wasn't super useful to level up the vanilla Blades of Chaos. You had to level up the other elements, and I didn't know this in the playthrough because the game does a terrible fucking job at telling you. So you can't really take advantage of all 4 elements during a single playthrough. You could if you get really, really, if you know what you're doing. I suppose if you played the game a bunch, you could probably do it. Level up level up everything in one playthrough, but you're taking disadvantages if you keep changing element. You're just kind of forced to stay with one. Um, the other boss fights in the game are kind of mid as well. The field of view, I mentioned this as well. The camera view is fucking awful in God of War section at certain sections. It zooms out far too much. It zooms out far too much. Like God of War 1 had some bad camera view places, but God of War fucking Ascension easily has the worst. So I'm going to put this in bad. It's a bad game. I prefer the PSP games. I had a lot more fun with these 2 games than God of War Ascension. God of War Ascension, if you've ever heard of the saying, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. That's what God of War Ascension did. It fixed a bunch of unnecessary, it made a bunch of stupid changes, unnecessary changes that weren't needed, and it fucking ruined the game because of that. And that is my opinion. So, next is God of War 2018. So, the newer God of War games, the new trilogy is more story based, as you may know. So, oh yeah, also I forgot to mention, God of War Ascension is the only God of War game I said this. The only God of War you can't officially play at 60 FPS. I mean, you might get a more consistent high rate frame rate if you had a overclocked PS3, possibly, but you might get a consistent 30 like that. But hey, you're not getting 60. There's no official way to play it at 60 unless you play it through an emulator. So yeah, every God of War game you can play at 60. There's a method to play at 60. I don't know about this game. This game might play at 15, but hey, we don't talk about that game. Just kidding. We do talk about that game. You never know. Maybe I'll do a playthrough of this game and I might put it up. Who knows? So God of War 2018 is very story based. The story is far too long to even talk about it. I've not really talked about the story of most of these God of War games because some of them are just, even the original trilogy, you're still talking quite a bit to think of the story. But these games, you're talking like 40-hour stories and it's just too much detail. So let's talk about the combat. So the combat's interesting. One good thing I think God of War 2018 did very, very good was you did not start with the Blades of Chaos in the start of the game. So you were encouraged to use the Force Dash and you were encouraged to use a different type of weapon, which I think was really interesting. You wouldn't get the Blades of Chaos until a lot later in the game. By the way, I know they're not called the Blades of Chaos in every single God of War game. I know they're called the Blades of Athena, some Blades of Exile and stuff like that. I get that, but I'm just calling them all the Blades of Chaos because it's confusing changing the names. So I think that was a really interesting mechanic and different elements did more damage and that which kind of didn't seem to be really a thing in the original trilogy. It would be kind of a thing in God of War 3, but it didn't really seem to be a thing in the other trilogy. So let's talk about the problems. So the biggest problem that God of War 2018 is really the boss fights are okay. Decent, they got good some boss fights, but there's a certain boss in the game you fight over and over and over again. So it's like these like Titan enemies, these big enemies you fight and you fight them about over and over again. You count one like every hour of the game. It gets really, really, really competitive. It gets quite it can get quite annoying and stuff like. Also, I think another problem with God of War 2018 is the game has too many fucking puzzles. The game has far too many puzzles. Like in the older God of War games, you had to do puzzles, of course, but you didn't really have to do puzzles. Like in the new God of War 2018, you have to do puzzles if you want to get. Oh, you want to get like like a Gorgon eye or something. Obviously, they're different in the show. They're not called that, but I'm just giving you that for an example. Like you would have to do some stupid puzzle just to collect one. You'd have to do one for like the Spartan race and one for like the Manor Bar and stuff, and it just got really it got boring. It got boring doing it after a while, having to do the same thing over and over and over again. Like throw your axe at something, figure this out, throw your axe at something else, figure this out, throw your axe, and it was really fucking annoying. It was really annoying. Let's talk about another bad thing. So I think another bad thing about God of War 2018 was the boy, what's his, Atreus, Loki, boy, whatever the fuck you want to call him. He wouldn't shut the fuck up sometimes. Seriously, I think he would non-stop talk, he would non-stop stuff like that. It was kind of annoying and it kind of does ruin free playability. Another thing I think I big problem was this wasn't really a problem in the older God of War games. Because the older God of War games, you had to be better at the combos and better in parrying and blocking. But the problem in the trilogy was enemy health, I felt, got a bit too high on harder difficulties. Sometimes. And it just felt really annoying. Like the jump on enemy health and armor and difficulties was really fucking annoying. The light RPG systems were interesting, but there were parts of it that were flawed. Like it kind of reminds me of another franchise, like the Elder Scrolls franchise. If you put it on harder difficulties, the enemies just get more tanky and you do less damage. Which, to be honest, is a fucking terrible way to increase difficulty. I don't mind the enemies doing more damage on higher difficulties, but you shouldn't make the enemies more fucking tanky on harder difficulties. It kind of ruins gameplay, in my opinion, personally. There's other ways you can make the game harder without doing that, but I guess they'll kind of have a for that. But overall, God of War 2018, I would say, pretty good game. Where would I put it? I'm not the biggest fan of it, but I can acknowledge it's a really, 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 really good game. And you also can play this game officially on PC. It's the only God of War game officially on PC right now. Although I'd imagine Ragnarok will come to PC probably in the next 2 years. Give it another year or two and it'll come to PC. I'm pretty sure whenever the new trilogy maybe comes out. So I think it's a good game, but you know what? I'm going to be generous. I'm going to put in amazing. I think it's an amazing game. It's not a masterpiece. It's not a masterpiece, despite the fact people say, "Oh, they fixed many issues of the older God of War games." You know, you see people that say this. See all these journalists and that say, Oh, it's because of button mashing. Well, maybe you guys should stop playing fucking on easy difficulty. Don't play the original God of War trilogy on easy difficulty. You need to play at the bare minimum on normal. If you play on easy, sure you can button mash, sure. But if you're button mashing the old God of War trilogy and you're complaining about button mashing, you need to fucking increase the difficulty. That's my answer to that, journalists. And your answer is, oh, they don't really have a story. Well, Kratos was. I kind of like Kratos being the more silent type, to be honest. And I mean, he's kind of a silent type in the trilogy. All right, let's talk about God of War Ragnarok. So, God of War Ragnarok. Oh man, this game is interesting. This game is interesting. So let's start with the bads. Let's start with the bad sections. Parts of the game went really slow. We can agree. This game, I would. I don't like to use this as a word because everybody misrepresents this word now. But there's this one section in God of War Ragnarok where this fucking Loki's fucking girlfriend. Oh man, and it's like a cutscene for a fucking hour, and you follow her around in this wool stuff, and you're not really playing the game, but you have to play the game. You have to move your joystick, but nothing's really happening. It is a really bad section, and this section, I'm a believer of this. That game, that section was put in for forced diversity. It was put in just for the sake of getting all these activists and all and getting them all happy, so they wouldn't complain about the game and stuff like that. It was that section was fucking rough. There was some characters that could have been written better. There was completely ruined. Tyr, I think, was kind of screwed over as a character, him being Odin the entire time. I think there's a better way they could have wrote that personally as well. Him being a spy the entire time. Odin was good. It was interesting, but his boss fight at the final end, like Zeus's boss fight in God of War 3, I think was a lot more interesting. Odin, considering that Odin was the final boss of the trilogy, obviously, assuming you don't call it Valhalla, but at the time we didn't know Valhalla existed. I don't think there was any. I don't know if there was actually any leaks. Valhalla was even in works. There might have been. There might have been, but it had a lot of issues. It downgraded a lot of issues. The puzzles as well. Like they would say, do this. This is how you solve the puzzle. This is how you solve the puzzle. Do this. Do this. And I am glad. I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna cheer for this. I know some people are not gonna like when I'm saying this. I know some Sony ponies might see this and say, "Oh, how dare you say this?" I'm glad Elden Ring won Game of the Year over God of War Ragnarok because Elden Ring deserved it a lot more than God of War Ragnarok did in the Game of the Year, and I'm glad. And same goes to 2018. God of War 2018, absolutely great game. But Red Dead Redemption 2 is a far better game than God of War, man. It's much more replayable, much more longer. I can understand you can make the argument and say, well, Red Dead 2 Online sucks. I agree. I mean, that sucks in my opinion. I get people say it's good and people like it, but I played it when it first came out. I didn't like it and I never got into it. But anyway, let's talk about the Valhalla DLC before I do rank Ragnarok. So the Valhalla DLC is amazing. It is a free DLC. It explains some of the more lore and we get to learn more of the older enemy types and that, and it's more like a dungeon based thing, and it's really interesting where you unlock weapons and that later on. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was fun. And it kind of helped Ragnarok out, I think personally. So I'm gonna put Ragnarok in good. I think me personally, if it wasn't for the Valhalla DLC being free and wasn't being a great DLC and it carried the game, it helped the game a lot, I would probably put it in okay. I know that is controversial and I get that, but it has a lot of issues. God of War Ragnarok is not a replayable God of War game. Like it's that 1 hour section just ruins the replayability. That 1 hour section ruins the replayability and saying stupid stuff. To be honest, it's not as bad as Spider Man. It's not as bad as the new Spider Man 2 when it comes to some of this forced diversity, freaking talking and stuff like that. Like, oh man, we'll see what happens in the new God of War trilogy. I'm just glad they didn't also kill off Kratos. People saying they're gonna kill off Kratos, they're gonna kill off Kratos in this game, and I'm just glad they did. If they kill off Kratos, I'm sure journalists would be like, woohoo! I'd be fucking like, this game sucks. But I'm glad they didn't kill off Kratos, so they made a smart decision not to kill off Kratos for now. But I think the problem, me in my opinion, in the new problem in the new God of War trilogy was the time jump was too big. Like 1,000 year time jump. I think we need to learn why Kratos hated his past in that, because I do not believe Kratos regretted the events he did in the original God of War trilogy like 10 years, maybe like 1 year, 2 years, maybe even a decade, potentially even a century after that. Also, I forgot to mention this. Why the fuck did you marry this fucking new wife, Kratos? She fucking treats you like you're hates you. Seriously, treats you like crap. I'm sorry. I know I'm going too much into this, and I know somebody's going to comment and going to say, you don't bring this up. But this is my opinion. Let me know what you think in the comment section. What's your favourite God of War? Do you love the new trilogy, or do you think the new trilogy sucks? Or you like me, you're like, they're okay, but they're not as good as some of the original games, but they're decent. And I played the original games recently, so this is an up-to-date opinion of all the games. But, and if you want to go and see a playthrough, I have a playthrough of all the games on the channel. But anyway, I've got nothing else to say, so I will see you all next time. And I'll make sure I pin them in the comment. I'll try and pin them in the comment, because I upload this at 2 on Thursday. I'll try and do that when I upload pin all my playthroughs of the God of War games on the channel. I've done all the Geek Saga God of War games. But anyway, I've got nothing else to say, so I will see you all next time. Peace out, and yes, let me know what you would rank your God of War games. But anyway, peace out and bye.